Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be playing Infernity Gate. Now this deck does have a couple of flaws. Out of like the 5 garnets you run, yeah, you have to pretty much make sure you don't hit a single one. I do run 2 Bore the Spear, so hitting that is okay. So you can say you have to make sure you don't hit 4 garnets. So right here we have a pretty decent hand. Tour Guide is probably the MVP of this entire deck right here, and we'll go straight into the deck then. So we're gonna activate Void Apocalypse. That will be pitching off a Patriarch. We open 2, the only 2 we run, and we'll be sending Stygian Street Patrol. In case you guys do not know what this is, it's banish it from your graveyard, summon a Fiend with 2000 or less attack from your hand, so technically it could summon itself too. So we're going to be activating its effect to summon a Necromancer from a grave to summon out the Patriarch later, once we get rid of this other Patriarch in our hand. We're going to normal summon our Tour Guide, use effect, summon our Rhino Warrior. Since Patriarch is the only card left in our hand, we can just summon it. And now we have the conditions met to use Necromancer. We're going to go straight for the Cherubini. Rhino Warrior will be pitching off an Archfiend right there. And now we're going to use Necromancer. Necromancer will bring back our Archfiend. Archfiend will be getting our search for Infernity Launcher. And we're going straight for the Saryuja. Saryuja will go ahead draw 4 for us. I'm going to be keeping the Extender, Monster Reborn, with us. We're going to get Infernity Launcher out, and it will summon back our Patriarch and our Necromancer. Necromancer will trigger, summoning out the Infernity Archfiend. Archfiend will trigger, which will search another Necromancer. We will use Saryuja's effect to summon Necromancer number 2. We're going to go into Virus Swordsman. And we're just going to summon Codebreaker 0 Day, and we are not going to be summoning Virus Berserker, believe it or not. And actually, we are going to be, if you want, you could run Virus Berserker in this deck. Pretty much what you're going to do, you're just going to summon it, and then you're pretty much just going to be bringing back the 0 Day. I'm just running this so that we can get the 0 Day out on our field. The second Necromancer that we summoned off Saryuja will trigger. It can summon out another Infernity Archfiend, which will get a search for an Infernity Barrier. We're going to go into a Leviair because we need 3 level 4s for the combo to work, and Stygian Street Patrol is a level 4, so we can just go ahead and summon this. Next, we're going to overlay into Force Strix. If you've watched my other Infinite Negate videos, you would know how this goes. Summon Force Strix, summon Singing Lanius, summon Y Strix, summon Zephyros. Overlay into another Force Strix. Use its effect to search a Bora. Y Strix will go ahead set a Soulshade Force. We're gonna go into Simorg. We're gonna bounce back a card we control for the summon of Zephyros the Elite. We're gonna summon Bora the Spear, and we're gonna go into Union Carrier. We're going to use the Monster Reborn in order to go ahead and use our Archfiend. We can't use its effect to search because we have a card in our hand. We're going to go into an Avermax. I could have also gone into an Appaloosa, but Avermax really works better with this deck, as your opponent can just beat over your Infinite Negates. And we're going to use Union Carrier to equip Mist Valley Thunderbird to the hand. And during the end of our turn, we will go ahead and use Simorg Bird of Sovereignty in order to summon Apex Avian. Now, what this does is, we have an Omni Negate, which helps. Well, it won't really trigger, because I probably should have set this Apocalypse. If we had set the Apocalypse, we wouldn't have been able to use a Simorg Bird of Sovereignty. But you get the gist. If we didn't have this in our hand, we could have used the Infernity Barrier to play around stuff like Dark Ruler no more. Usually, if you're just doing your basic Infernity combo, you're usually going to end on something like 2 barriers, Void Ogre, all of that. If you're doing that sort of combo, then you could also just do that entire combo. Then you could go into this. I decided to go on a more Xyz focused deck. Right here we have the Avermax. If you don't know how Infinite Gates work, I will just explain it. All you need is Thunderbird on the field and Apex Avian on the field. What Apex Avian does is once per chain, you can return 1 Mist Valley card you control to your hand to negate the activation of a card. Mist Valley Thunderbird's effect is when it returns from the field to the hand, you can special summon it, and neither of these effects are once per turn. Well, Apex Avion is once per chain, so you can just summon it over and over and over again. I could not use the Soul Shade Force right here because we usually would go into Cyber Dragon Infinity for the extra negate. I probably shouldn't have gone for the Infernity Archfiend. Looking back on it, it was probably a bit of a reckless move because for some dumb reason I thought I could search another barrier with it and then I could have 2 more negates, which is just as good as a Cyber Dragon Infinity. Of course, I could probably absorb the Union Carrier with my Cyber Dragon Infinity. Probably didn't think of that either. I'm pretty dumb, but I could have gotten away with the set the Void Apocalypse. All you have to do is think a bit more, and this is the optimal ending. During your main phase, use Soul Shade Force, summon out Cyber Dragon Infinity, absorb the Union Carrier, set the Void Apocalypse, and then use the Monster Reborn in order to summon back your Infernity Archfiend. Infernity Archfiend will get a search for barrier, and I think that would work. Maybe, not really. Because Void Apocalypse, well, I'm not sure if that would work or not, but you get the gist. We'll go straight into a real duel where stuff happened. So right here we are going up against Dark Magicians, and they have opened one of the very few outs to this board. Pretty much every kaiju outs this board that we have made, and I guess Super Poly does too, so does Dark Ruler no more. Those are the very few outs I can think of. He opened Super Poly, but let's see how we can go up against that. We're going to use a Lord of Darkness, banish out the Patriarch. We don't care about the Patriarch, we run 2. I'll normal summon the Tour Guide, use effect, summon Rhino Warrior. I'm going to go into Cherubini. A Rhino Warrior will trigger, chain link to Parallel Exceed. Parallel Exceed will summon itself, and then Rhino Warrior will trigger, sending a Stygian Street Patrol so that we can summon this Infernity Archfiend from our hand later. We're going to use a Parallel Exceed in order to summon another copy of Parallel Exceed. Cherubini will be sending a copy of Necromancer from our deck to the graveyard so that we can summon it later with something like a Infernity Launcher. And next we will go into a Dugaris. Dugaris will detach 2, summon out the Necromancer from our graveyard. We're going to be summoning a Singing Lanus because we control an Xyz monster. And now we're going to have to try our best to preserve the Singing Lanus. We're going to set 1, activate the effect of Stygian Street Patrol, summon our Infernity Archfiend. Archfiend will trigger. We'll get the search for Launcher. Go into Saryuja, using everything except our Singing Lanus. We're going to get rid of 3. We're going to go ahead, use its effect to discard the Necromancer we have in hand, and now we're use its effect to summon 2 Necromancers from our graveyard. We'll use the effect of one of those Necromancers in order to summon Infernity Archfiend. Of course, Archfiend will trigger, searching the Patriarch. At any moment we want, we can summon the Patriarch. I was kind of dumb linking away the Necromancer that I had not even used, because Necromancer is just a sophomore turn. I could have just used it. I don't know why I didn't. I think I was running out of time at this point because I'd spent a little time thinking. We're gonna use the effect of Virus Swordsman, summoning out 0 Day. Saryuja will trigger. I don't really think that was Saryuja's effect. I think it was Patriarch's own effect. I don't know. And we're gonna overlay into Force Strix. At this point, as long as you have something like a Infernity Launcher or just any 2 monsters with Saryuja on, you pretty much have full combo. We're going to be searching the board of the sphere because we already have the Singing Lanes on field. We're going to be using the effect of Y-Strix, which is to summon Zephyros the Elite from our deck. We're going to be special summoning Bora, overlay into Force Strix, detach 1, searching the Bora, and we are going to use Y-Strix. It's a mandatory effect. When a Raid Raptor Xyz monster's effect is activated, you have to set 1 rank of magic from your deck. We're going to link those 2 off for a Simorg, and we're pretty much going to use our Zephyros, bounce back the Bora, summon it, and then we can summon both Boras from our hand. We can go into Union Carrier, and we're going to use Blind the Lord of Darkness, We have this snack in our hand. Maybe I think I could have gone for the 4 negate Appaloosa if I actually used the snack. I don't know. I probably could have. But we are going to go straight for the 4 Strix, rank up into Infinity, and equip the Thunderbird. During the end phase, Morgan effect will activate, summoning Apex Avian from her deck. By itself, maybe with an extra 4 negate Appaloosa, this would be a very threatening board to face. But this guy has Super Poly. If this guy ran Almarduke, I would have been very, very screwed. It seems that he's playing a pure, it seems that the only target he's running is Starving Venom and Mud Dragon. Okay, I guess. Because that's going to cost him, because he doesn't run Almarduke. I'm pretty sure that the only way he's actually going to get something is by either Xyz summoning off the Apex Avian, or the Simorg. I believe he went for the Apex Avian because it's a bigger threat than the Simorg itself. Yep, he's going for the Mud Dragon. He's going to normal summon Magician's Rod. Magician's Rod lets him search any spell or trap. I do not like that. And the thing I was scared of is him searching are both of these cards. He draws both of those cards. I did not know what he was going to search next, but I'm pretty much forced to negate it. I don't know what this dude does. Who even reads that? Dark Magic Circle. He stacks his deck with a Magician's Souls, and he sets an Eternal Soul. Now I have to skip straight to my battle phase, mainly because I used Dagaris my last turn. We're going to attack over some stuff right here. And during our main phase 2, we're going to set one, use the effect of Snack. I didn't use the effect of Snack because I thought I could use Zero Max during the turn. But unfortunately, I cannot conduct my battle phase a turn I use Zero Max. So I'm going to have to wait another turn because of my stupidity. We're going to be... I could have at least summoned the Snack, equip it to the Infinity. But whose brain even works that way? He makes a mistake summoning the Dark Magician attack mode. He banishes my Thunderbird because once again he thinks that's a bigger threat than my Cyber Dragon Infinity. He's going to attack over my Union Carrier. He didn't attack over my Cyber Dragon Infinity, which could just straight up eat up his Dark Magician next turn. But that's okay. We will just end up eating up his Dark Magician. But he changed Eternal Soul, which makes everything unaffected. Then he activates the effect of Magician's Rod. What does that even do? Let me just pause this for a second. What does this even do? You can, well, if you, during your opponent's turn when you activate spell or trap, tribute one spellcaster added to your hand. So he could activate Eternal Soul, which in turn banished the Zero Max I had set, which I intended on using. But I have enough for game anyways. I can just attack over for just 100 over lethal. And as you can see, this shows a couple of the flaws in the deck, like Dark Ruler No More, Kaiju, Sphere Mode probably. Usually you would also be able to play around the Dark Ruler No More using something like the Infinity Barrier from last replay. But we will go straight to the deck profile. So right here we have the deck profile. We have triple Parallel Exceed. This is probably the saving grace of the deck. It's pretty much necessary. This deck is nothing without this. One Apex Avian. First I'll just go over the quick engine. The Apex Avian, the Thunderbird, the Singing Lanius, the Double Bora, and the one Zephyros. All of this is really just for as soon as you get a nice couple of monsters and 2 level 4s. Just go into 4 Strix. You're just going to go into 4 Strix, Xyz, summon a bit, use 4 Strix, search Singing Lanius, summon Singing Lanius, summon Y Strix, summon Zephyros. Hope you have another level 4, overlay into 4 Strix number 2. Detach the Bora not the Bora, the Zephyros specifically in order to search a Bora. Y Strix will set the Soul Shade Force, and you're pretty much... you could just straight up go straight from the Y Strix plus 4 Strix. I mean, just the 4 Strix. You can just go straight from 4 Strix into the Simorg if you really want to. But really, all these extra steps give you the extra Cyber Dragon Infinity, which is super cool. We have our one Nessie for our Danger Engine. Dangers work super well in this deck. Unless you draw one of your gardeners, which is where it's terrible. 1 copy of Archfiend. Archfiend is, of course, Archfiend. You can't really argue with that. Archfiend is probably the most loopable card in this deck. We're going to be looping around lots of Necromancers, using Archfiend, searching... well, Zero Max isn't an Arch Infernity card, we'll get to that later. 2 copies of Mossman. Probably one of the better dangers in this deck. And not only do you get to... you do technically get to draw 1, discard 1 card, which lets you get cards like Street Patrol and Rhino Warrior in your graveyard. 1 copy of Codebreaker Zero Day. Once again, you're always going to make Saryuja with this deck, and you're going to be co-linking this Fire Swordsman to it. Also, Fire Swordsman is the highest attack link to monster in the game. On top of that, it's generic, so that's great, I guess. 2 copies of Boar the Spear. I played 2 copies because of the utility you just saw in the game. A game where I ended up drawing a Singing Nanius or the Boar the Spear, and it just lets you summon so much more. 3 copies of Street Patrol. It's practically a free summon from the hand. On top of that, we can easily dump it into the graveyard using a Void Apocalypse. 1 copy of Zephyros the Elite. You're only going to run 1 copy. It's a once per duel effect. I'm not really too scared of drawing it, because I can always just summon it with something like this Saryuja. 2 copies of Patriarch. The 2 copies have just come in clutch so many times I can't explain. 1 copy of Singing Lanius, and not only do you summon it if you search it off Forstrix, if you end up hard drawing it, you can also summon it off the Exceed summon of something like a Dugaris, which is pretty much necessary if you have the Parallel Exceed. 1 copy of Rhino Warrior, mainly just 1 copy because our good friend Tour Guide can summon from the hand and deck, which is super great. 2 copies of Gillosaurus. Gillosaurus is really, you pretty much want to go into that Cherubini, because it can Cherubini / Fiendish Rhino Warrior can dump Archfiend Harris to your deck, and Archfiend Harris can search Infernity Archfiend, which is perfectly well. It's brilliant. 1 copy of Tsuchinoko because it's limited. 1 copy of Thunderbird. Once again, I've explained its use in the engine. 2 Tour Guide. It just helps us go into the Cherubini much easier. 1 copy of Harris. If it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can search an Archfiend card, and would you know it, Infernity Archfiend is an Archfiend. 3 copies of Necromancer. 3 copies of Necromancer is kind of great because you can just loop through it a lot of times. Maybe sometimes you need 3 copies, sometimes you're gonna need 2, but it's pretty great at 3. 3 copies of Allure of Darkness, really just for the extra draw power and consistency. 1 copy of Sultry Force, really just to rank up our Forstrix into the Cyber Dragon Infinity. 3 copies of Zero Max. It's basically an Infernity Monster Reborn. 1 copy of Upstart. 1 copy of Monster Reborn, 1 copy of Into the Void. All of these are just for consistency, and Monster Reborn is a brilliant extender. 2 copies of Void Apocalypse. It can help us dump stuff like Street Patrol into the graveyard. On top of that, it discards for cost, so you can trigger one of your dangers off it. 1 copy of Infernity Launcher can help you summon 2 straight from your graveyard. 1 Infernity Break and 2 Infernity Barrier. Infernity Break, I don't run 3 Infernity Barrier because I think Infernity Break also has this utility, really, because you don't necessarily have to have a face-up thing on the field. I probably should run Called by the Grave on this. I don't know why I don't run Called by the Grave. I probably just forgot to add it, honestly. Maybe I could take out an Infernity Barrier, maybe, because we're not going to be looping stuff like Barrier. As soon as we get to Patriarch, we're going to be Xyz summoning hard. So, I don't know, just put in 3 copies. You guys think about it yourself, where to put what. 1 copy, for extra deck, we have 1 copy of Cyber Dragon Infinity. We're going to rank it up using our Sultry Force. 1 copy of Dugaris. Dugaris is, of course, awesome, you know. Usually we're just going to overlay into Dugaris using our Parallel Exceed, mainly because Saryuja requires monsters with different names, and Parallel Exceed summons another Parallel Exceed, which is, of course, not, both of them don't have the same name. So you can just Exceed in Dugaris, detach 2 summon from your graveyard. 2 copies of Force Strix, because we're going to really loop around. 2 copies. 1 copy of Levier. You saw how that 1 copy of Levier came in clutch earlier. It can recover our banished level 4 monsters such as Street Patrol, or anything really that we banish off our Allure of Darkness. 1 copy of Avermax to protect our Thunderbird, because it's practically naked out there. If when you summon it off its own effect, your opponent can just easily just run over it. 2 copies of Saryuja, because sometimes you're just going to loop through 2 copies, super useful at 2. 1 copy of Appaloosa, you can end on a nice Negates in case your opponent kaiju's your Apex Avian of some sort, then you can always have the Appaloosa as backup. 1 copy of Simorgh Bird of Sovereignty to summon Apex Avian from your deck. 1 copy of Virus Swordsman to summon your level 4 0 day. If you really want to, you can also run your 1 copy of Virus Berserker, as it's also link 3 and helps us link climb into Avermax much easier, as you saw right there. I think I will run the 1 Virus Berserker, mainly because I ran the IP for a reason, but I guess we can just get into the reason IP is there much easier just by using Virus Swordsman. We have by the way, Virus Berserker is it's basically a link 3, just instantly converting the swordsman into link 3. Super cool. On top of that, it also has an effect to pop stuff, I guess. We have a 1 White Strix to special summon Zephyros straight from our deck, a 1 Union Carrier to equip Thunderbird to our Simorgh, and finally we have 1 Cherubini. The utility of Cherubini depends on the game state. Sometimes you're going to be using it to dump a Necromancer so that you can summon it later off something like a Zero Max or a Monster Reborn, or you'll be sending something like a Rhino Warrior to send a Stygian to the grave, or a Harris to search an Archfiend. Cherubini is super versatile in this deck, and that's why I like it. So I hope you like this deck profile. Do like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.